Hi guys, and welcome to another Blender tutorial, and we're going to be modeling a beer goblet, I think is what it's called, or a beer glass. It's not a pint traditional type beer glass. We're going to be doing this more goblet shape here. So if you just go onto Google Images and you can find any number of different beer glasses, we're going to actually be doing this one here, which is this goblet type shape. It's almost like a thicker, more sturdy wine glass. But you could do any you want, a tall, elegant wine flute like this, or the kind of standard beer glass that you're used to seeing, pint glass. So once you've got your reference image, we're going to set that up here in Blender, so we can delete our regular image here, our default object, hit N, and we'll set up a background image. So we'll go to Add Image. I've already downloaded the picture that we want, so it's going to be this one here, and we're going to view it in just the front view. So if we switch to the front view, you'll see there's our beer glass. Now I want to do things in real world sizes, so this actually is a little bit large. So to scale this down to get everything to the right size, let's say the distance across the top of our beer glass is going to be around, what would I say, around 5 or 6 centimeters. So we're going to create a cylinder, and then over here we're going to switch over into metric, and in our radius, we're going to make the radius, say, half of our beer glass width. So let's say 3 centimeters for the radius, which would make a 6 centimeter wide opening. And make sure metric is turned on. Our depth, we're going to go to around 10 centimeters, something like that. Whoops, that's 10 meters. Let's turn on the metric, 10 centimeters. Okay, now we've done that, we can zoom in on our cylinder, and you'll see it's now very small compared to our background image. So the next thing we want to do is scale down our background image so that it fits our view. So size, here we'll scale down like so. Don't want to go too small. Say 0.1 would be around, right, 0.08 maybe. Yes, okay, that's close enough. So we'll just zoom in on this. Well, there we go. Front view. And now we'll hit Z to go into wireframe mode, tab to go into edit. We'll go to edge select, and I'm going to start off by selecting all those top edges and dragging them up to the top of our glass. Now I'm going to drag all of the bottom edges down to the bottom of the glass, like so. So it would be somewhere around here. Now our picture isn't taken square on, so there's a little bit of deformation going on. It's taken at a slight angle, so the actual real bottom plane of the glass would be somewhere around here. Now I want to scale this up so it's about the size of the bottom of the glass there, and then the same on the top. Box select and scale it so it's about the size of our glass. Okay. And now we will go to our tools, and we're going to put in a series of loop cuts, which then we will scale to approximately follow the shape of our glass. So don't worry about getting the curves just yet, because when we add our subsurf modifier, it's going to smooth things out for us and make some of those curves. So just kind of focus on following the major areas of our glass. so it doesn't taper too much at the bottom flute there. And then it flares out here. Now I'm going to select these bottom edges again. Just going to scale that up just so the proportions look about right to me. Okay, so now we're done with that. We can tab out of edit mode. Solid view. You'll see it's a little bit blocky. Even if we turn on smooth shading, it's still not perfect. So we're going to add a modifier, which will be a subdivision surface modifier. Crank that up to 2. Now you see we've got something funny going on here because we have a top and a bottom on our glass. So actually we want to remove those. So back into edit mode, face select, we're going to delete this face. And we're going to delete the bottom face. So now when we apply our subsurf modifier, we don't get that funny look. We'll just go for 2 subdivisions. There we go. Okay, so I'm happy with the shape of our glass now. Now we need to add some thickness to it in places. And we'll just double check from the front view, following the contours right. Yes, good enough, I think. I think that's good enough for us. So you can play around, obviously, with your own background image to follow the contours. It's very rare that you'll find an image which is taken exactly square on with the glass. So there's always going to be a little bit of asymmetry to it, but your actual model is symmetrical even if the image isn't. So the next thing we want to do is create the inside of our glass. So we'll go into edit mode and edge select. We're going to select all these top edges, E to extrude and then S to scale, and we're going to scale in just a little bit to give our glass some thickness. It's probably about enough. Front view, edit mode, Z for wireframe, and I'm going to turn off that preview just to make things a little easier to see for now. And we'll go E to extrude, Z axis, and we're going to extrude just down to the bottom tip there. And then we will scale this in. And then I'm going to insert, make edges and faces there. Now we're done with that. Loop cuts again. And we want to follow the profile but keep this kind of, as much as we can, keep this even glass thickness all the way down. So the solidify tool makes this easier, but the problem with the solidify tool is it would actually also create, the stem would also be hollow, whereas what we've actually got in this beer glass is a solid stem and base, so I didn't want that, just for the sake of realism. So that's why we're going to model it like this instead. But if you were doing the traditional pint size type glass, a very quick way of doing this is just to use the solidify modifier. Just put in our loop cuts here. Okay, and next thing we're going to need to do is add a bottom to our glass. So we'll do that by Shift Alt Select to get all of those. And E to extrude, enter, S to scale. So we're going to bring that in. Actually, we're just going to drag that down a little bit to give our base a little bit of thickness, and then we're going to bevel this later, add some realism to it. So just drag it down a tad, then E to enter, and then S to scale. And we're going to bring these up a little bit. So E to enter, S to scale, because the bottom of the glass is never actually perfectly flat. It always kind of tapers up a little bit inside. To enter, S to scale, bring this in and up a little bit. Final one. And then we will go make edges and faces. We'll come back to our solid view, out of edit mode, and there is our glass. Let's go now to our front view. Everything's looking okay for us there. And what I want to do now is just sharpen up maybe this edge here. It's looking a little bit too rounded. If we actually look closely at the type of reference images, you'll see that these glasses have a small actual kind of lip to them that sticks out a little bit. So we want to add that in. So here in edit mode, we're just going to add in a couple more loop cuts. So we'll put 1 and 2 there. And now I'm going to grab this top edge. Actually, I'm going to move those loop cuts up a little bit. And then we'll grab our top edge here. I'm going to hit S to scale. We'll just bring that out a very tiny amount, and it gives us that hint of a little lip around the rim there, which is quite a nice little detail. Now down here at the bottom, I want to bevel this edge. So I'm going to select this and Control B to bevel. You're going to want to bevel quite a small amount, so say 0.03. It's too much. 0.003, 0.005. Let's just get our bevel about right. 0.005, still too much. Okay, so 0.0005, and now I'm going to increase the segments to 2. Right. To my front view. I think this is a little bit too sloped, so I want to fix that. I'm going to select all those edges there. I'm going to drag that down a bit. I'm going to scale it in a little bit, like so. That's a little bit better. Right. So that is our basic glass object modeled. Next thing we're going to want to do is add some texture to it and make it look like it's really glass. I'm just going to move it up so it sits on top of our plane. And we're going to switch from Blender Render into Cycles Render. Just get rid of this for the moment. And in our materials, we will create a new material, and the surface will be glass. And then we're going to change the color to pure white. It's not going to look that good though when we render it right now because we don't have anything in the background, but you can see that there's the beginning of our kind of glass look. So what we're going to add in, we'll go to create a plane. So there is a kind of object, a plane that our glass will sit on. And then we're going to duplicate this, so Shift and D, are on the x-axis, 90 degrees. We'll drag that back and up. Now we also want to create a camera object. So I'm going to go to a front view, create a camera. Oh, it's very big. Scale it down, drag it back. Let's go to our camera view and go to our camera settings here, or our render settings actually. I'm going to reverse these, so it will be 180 by 1920. So 1080 by 1920. And back in our camera here, we're going to change the focal length to zoom in, like so, on our glass. Okay, and then focal length back a little bit, and we'll move the camera on the y-axis so it's closer up, like this. Okay, in our plane object we want to also move so it covers our camera like that. Okay, now I'm just going to scale the camera on the y-axis just because it looks a bit daft getting in our way there. Alright, next thing then, I want to create a reflective surface here. So again, in our materials, add a new material slot, and this will be a glossy surface. Roughness completely down to 0. So that means it's completely reflective. And this here, we're going to create a new emission. We'll just leave that as it is for the moment. We'll come to those later. So if we go to rendered now, you'll see that we have this reflective surface with our glass sitting on top of it. Let's go to our camera view. So now we have quite a nice looking rendering of our glass. It's already looking quite realistic for us. But I want to add some coloring to this. So our emission object here, we're going to change to an environment texture. I'm going to use a texture which I got from online. You can create your own textures in Photoshop. Actually, we will just create our own texture. I'll just show you how to do that quickly. It's just going to be a radial texture. So we'll create a 1000 by 1000 view there. So you could do basically the same in GIMP or Photoshop or whichever software it is you're using. And we're going to make a radial gradient. And just reverse these around. We want it to go very dark on the outside edges. Then we'll drag out a new. Put that there. This one here. We'll make this one white. We'll make this one slightly orangey color, a bit down towards the brown area. This will be completely black. Something like this. Okay, and then, whoops, we'll go the opposite way. Black at that side, white at this side. All right. Make that slightly smaller. Okay, now I'm going to save this. Save as background emitter. Save that to my desktop as JPEG. Okay. Back into Blender, and in my desktop we should have the background emitter object that we just created, and then we change our vector to generated right there. Oops. We're going to up the strength a little bit. And you'll see now that we've got a problem with our texture. It's too large for the area that we've got here. So to fix that, delete that background plane and make sure that you have your import images as planes turned on in your add-ons. So here in add-ons, there's import images as planes. Make sure that's checked. And then we can go, I think it's Shift and A to add an image as a plane. And now we're going to choose the background emitter that we just did. And we're going to choose emission from down here. Import image as plane. There we go. Okay. Now we can rotate this on the x-axis 90 degrees, and we can move it back like so. Probably also we can move it upwards. Now I'll go to our camera view, switch back to rendered. Let's see what we've got there. Okay, now everything's looking quite dark. There's a reason for this. That's because when you import this as a image plane, it says light path is camera ray, and you want to actually turn that off. So we'll drag out a new window here, and we'll change that to our node editor. Is that gone? Node editor. And you'll see here we have this is camera ray, and we just want to delete that. Now when we delete that, you'll see that it lights our scene properly. Now I may just want to move our glass down so it's sitting on that plane, so it isn't floating above it. So now we get a nice reflection. See, previously it was above that, but you want it to be actually sitting on the plane, so we'll just drag it down until it's basically touching it. Here in solid view we can get a better idea. Okay. And there we basically have our glass in a lit scene here in render using Blender cycles. So you can see that creating a glass effect is actually quite easy. Using cycles and a preset glass, we can adjust the glossiness. So if you want less reflection down here, you can turn the roughness up, and that gives you kind of a textured surface there that the glass is sitting on, so you got less reflection. You'll see though that by doing that, you kind of lose a little bit of that seamlessness between the ground plane and the background. So what you may want to do is change to a mix shader, where the first shader will be the glossy and the second shader would be a diffuse. And then you can adjust the mix. We can bring our roughness right down. So then you can still have the reflection, but also still have some roughness and color to it. So I hope you found this tutorial useful. If you did, as always, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.